May I kindly ask you to take your seats so that we can start? Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear colleagues, welcome to the TROIKA high-level dialogue on enhancing international cooperation. Today's gathering is a pivotal moment as we bring together key stakeholders to exchange perspectives on enabling ambitious climate action. In the wake of the first global stocktake, which provides us with a comprehensive roadmap, our session today will explore the best practices, opportunities, and challenges we face in our collective journey to keep 1.5 goal within reach. As we prepare for the next round of NDCs, enhancing international cooperation is at the center of our collective effort. When we look at the latest findings and ambitious agenda for us, it's clear that COP29 will be a decisive test and a breakthrough of whether the multilateral process can confront the climate crisis. This process is complex and challenging, but it remains our strongest tool. It's our best hope, and we must commit ourselves fully to making it work. Our focus will be on how we can address shared climate challenges that transcend national borders, establish enabling conditions for collaboration among all stakeholders, and design synergistic approaches aligned with ultimate objective of the UNFCCC, the long-term goals of the Paris Agreement, and the Sustainable Development Goals. By fostering inclusive and multi-level cooperation, we aim to catalyze transformative action that advances sustainable development and poverty eradication, particularly for those with significant capacity constraints. Let us seize this opportunity to strengthen our collective response in the lead up to COP29, ensuring that our efforts are cohesive, ambitious, and capable of delivering the climate resilience that our world urgently needs. Through today's dialogue, we aspire not only to share experiences and best practices, but also to forge new partnerships and reinforce existing ones. Together, we can enhance the international enabling environment that stimulates ambition in the next generation of NDCs, keeping the 1.5 goal within reach and building a sustainable, resilient future for all. Distinguished guests, now I'm honored to introduce our co-presidency's TROIKA to formally open this session and share their perspectives on international cooperation to accelerate climate action. First, I would like to invite His Excellency Minister Mukhtar Babayev, COP29 President-designate, to emphasizing Azerbaijan's role in global climate leadership and the focus of COP29. Please, Minister, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear colleagues and friends, today, as we unite the presidencies of the United Arab Emirates, Brazil and Azerbaijan, the Troika of UNFCCC COP presidencies, we stand at an important moment in our collective effort to confront the climate crisis. The UAE consensus and the outcomes of the first global stocktake provide us with a comprehensive roadmap to keep 1.5 within reach and an essential foundation for the work ahead. The time is running, and science tells us we must act now. COP29 in Baku must be a decisive moment to turn commitments into real actions that make a difference. As a COP29 presidency, Azerbaijan is deeply committed to advancing international cooperations at all levels. Our discussions today are based on the belief that ambitious climate action can only be achieved through trust, shared learning, and inclusive partnership. To realize our climate goals, we see three areas where enhanced international cooperation can make a transformative impact. First, scaling up ambition through cooperation. As we prepare for the next round of NDCs, we must enhance cooperation amongst countries and stakeholders to share best practices and support nations towards deep, rapid, and sustained reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. Second, promoting climate transparency. The enhanced transparency framework is a base of our collective accountability. Transparency is critical for building trust and mutual confidence. We are proud to announce the launch of the Baku Global Climate Transparency Platform to support countries in preparing their biennial transparency reports and to foster universal participation in the enhanced transparency framework. Through this platform, we will provide targeted capacity building and mobilize resources to ensure all countries can effectively report their progress and challenges. We have conducted workshops across Africa, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe, and will extend these efforts globally. At COP29, we aim to adopt the Baku Declaration on Global Climate Transparency, reaffirming our commitment to transparency as a means of enhancing ambition and enabling action. Third is aligning climate finance with ambition. Our efforts must include a strong emphasis on climate finance. We cannot continue to make promises without delivering on them. We need to ensure that the new collective quantified goal on climate finance reflects the scale and urgency of the crisis. To this end, we are launching the Climate Finance Action Fund, which will catalyze public and private investments and support the most vulnerable regions. Additionally, Baku Initiative for Climate Finance, Investments and Trade aims to align global trade with our climate goals, integrating sustainable development and green growth into our financial systems. Adaptation is another critical pillar. We urgently need to scale up efforts globally, accelerating actions that address the pressing challenges it presents. At COP29, we need strategic collaboration to advance global cooperation on climate adaptation. We are witnessing the impacts of climate change in real time. To address this, we are introducing the Baku Harmonia Climate Initiative for farmers, supporting food and water security while empowering women and rural communities. Inclusivity and multi-level cooperation are equally crucial. COP29 will host the first ever Human Development Day, focusing on how climate intersects with education, health, and youth. By involving all sectors of society, we can catalyze transformative action that advance sustainable development and poverty education. We must also look toward approaches that align with other global commitments. The COP29 presidency has initiated the Rio Trio initiative to address the interconnected challenges of climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation. By enhancing collaboration across 3 Rio conventions, we aim to unlock synergies, avoid duplication, and drive concrete outcomes that benefit both people and the planet. Dear friends, the road ahead will not be easy, but with determination, cooperation, and commitment, I have no doubt that we can make COP29 the moment when our collective ambition turns into real action. By enhancing international cooperation, we can stimulate concrete action to keep the 1.5 goal within reach and build a sustainable, resilient future for all. We look forward to our fruitful discussions, continued collaboration, and all the best of luck at future COPs in Baku and Belém. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Babayev. Also importance of the COP29 and its historic role in enabling the commitments that have been taken in the previous COPs and translating them into the practical action. Now I have the honor to invite His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, the COP28 President, to provide insights on today's discussions.
Assalamu alaikum. Excellencies, friends, colleagues, it's indeed a great pleasure to be back here in Baku and to join you for this very important gathering in the lead up to COP29, and to also join you and join some of my esteemed colleagues for this final TROIKA session before COP29. As you know, the TROIKA was created to simply ensure that we continue the momentum delivered at COP28, leading to COP29, and from there to COP30. So ensuring that we enable the TROIKA to act as a bridge is a critical success factor for all of us. And here I am counting on everyone to support genuinely that very important effort. TROIKA, as you all know, aims to ensure that the outcome of the first global stocktake and the historic UAE consensus are acted on in every NDC, and in simple words, the TROIKA, if done right, should help translate words into wins. That is the objective. Not only to translate words into action, but to deliver real, tangible results through proper wins. And for that to happen, we must go back to basics. Multilateralism can and will play a role here. International cooperation is essential and in fact is critical, and collaboration at every level is key. We need to collaborate to ensure that every NDC has the highest ambition possible and is balanced across every pillar and has means of implementation at its core. We need to share best practices, enable the transfer of technologies, and promote investment across sectors, and with special emphasis to the Global South. We must invest as wisely in adaptation as mitigation. That means investing in new energies and existing decarbonization technologies. It means directing resources to food and water security. It means enhancing early warning systems and health systems. And it means reinforcing all our efforts with responsibility, transparency, and accountability. Basically, it means building real climate resilience while creating tangible new pathways for low carbon growth. And as I'm sure you've heard me say many times before, the upcoming NDCs are not only crucial for keeping 1.5 within reach, they represent a true massive opportunity for socio-economic development in line with the science and aligned to Paris. And through the needed enhanced international cooperation, we can ensure that equity is embedded in climate progress and that we don't leave anyone behind. let's make this meeting and let's adopt a different mindset and helping manage the Troika go forward in a much more open, much more interactive way, and let's be honest about the challenges we face, and let's be positive about the opportunity it presents, and let's demonstrate real progress to show that unity and solidarity can make a real difference. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sultanov, for your valuable thoughts. Now it's my pleasure to invite His Excellency André de Lago, Secretary for Climate, Energy and Environment at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil, to share Brazil's vision for COP30 and collaborative opportunities ahead. Please, Excellency.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you, and I'm sure that the debate is going to be much more interesting than what I'm going to say, so I'm going to be very short. But I want to tell you that we have witnessed now during the United Nations General Assembly and the Climate Week, at the same time, the fact that we are in a very difficult geopolitical situation in which we have huge divisions, a huge fragmentation. But we also saw that it was possible to have the pact of the future. And this is something that should fill us all with a certain enthusiasm regarding what multilateralism can do. Unfortunately, today, most people are concentrating on what multilateralism is not being able to deliver. But we have, in this very difficult context, make sure that we strengthen multilateralism in this exercise that we are living. And in the GST, and I think that we will always praise the UAE consensus as an extraordinary achievement in the context that we were last year, and expecting to have also similar results here in Baku. But we have to make sure that we resist the idea that the context is too complicated and we're not going to be able to achieve things. As you all know, Brazil is presiding at the moment G20. And at the G20, we're trying to bring some ideas that are coherent with what is being done also in multilateralism. But the legitimacy of multilateralism is something that Brazil is always very keen to stress. And President Lula this year in New York a few weeks ago, he presided the meeting of the foreign affairs ministers of the G20, which apparently was the first time that it happened during the General Assembly. Because, as President Lula said, the G20 is a very important group, but it's the UN that has the legitimacy, and we have to work this way. So, count on Brazil in this preparation and in the context of international cooperation to strengthen everything we have to do has to strengthen multilateralism, because the way forward is through that, and the GST puts it very clearly that we have to work together. So count on us, and be sure that Brazil has this as the line it wants to follow up to billing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. I would like to thank COP TROIKA Presidency's Excellencies for your very valuable insights and thought-provoking views that will also pave the way for enriching discussion today. Now it's my pleasure to invite our distinguished speakers from the United Nations and the UNFCCC to provide opening remarks, highlighting the crucial role of international cooperation. And I would like to invite His Excellency Simon Steele, Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC, to take the floor.
all of these tall people. Thank you, Yalcin. So, dear Excellencies, colleagues, friends, global cooperation has proved to be our best path forward. As we approach COP29, we must make sure we walk straight down this path. Dubai was defined by historic commitments in the UAE consensus in responding to the global stocktake, to implement what science told us we must meet. Baku will be a COP focused on the levers of implementation. The decisions in front of us will set the means to ensure all countries can be truly ambitious. From the NCQG to Article 6, cooperation will be key. Cooperation has always been humanity's greatest strength, especially as we implement solutions in ways that are appropriate and inclusive of the local peoples and communities benefiting from them. Our constituted bodies within the process provide you with the stage to come closer together with each other, to learn from good practices already implemented on the ground, to share challenges and solutions, to forge compromises, and in finding common ground. Some examples. Take the Least Developed Countries Expert Group, discussing the experiences and progress made by this group of countries in addressing adaptation. Their solutions and know-how have huge potential for peer-to-peer learning. Take the Technology Executive Committee, focusing on technology we already have, but which is not yet deployed across the planet. Their discussions and expertise have proved instrumental time and time again as we focus on scalable solutions and support to governments implementing them. Take the Local Communities and Indigenous Peoples platform. They have provided a fundamental voice for the diversity of the actors fighting side by side on climate. And their examples can have a huge impact on local communities through solutions that are often tested by century-old practices, and through indigenous voices that for centuries were neglected. Take the GST-NDC dialogue, which has been crucial in sharing information through our work programs, fostering communities of practice across sectors, boundaries, and regions. Each of these examples shows us the way forward is together, through unity, through our multilateral process. Listening to all voices, including non-party stakeholders, and onboarding all people, because we need all hands on deck. I urge all parties to once again embrace this spirit of cooperation, to find the solutions to move forward further and faster. I thank you.
I thank you, Simon. And now I have the honor to invite Her Excellency, Madame Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, to share her thoughts.
Thank you so much. Well, there was Mukhtar, then there was Sultan, and then there was Andre, and then there was Simon. Yes, they left the best for last, Amina. But thank you very much for giving us one of the first balanced panels that I've seen in a very long time. That is also credit to the host. So thank you, our President-designate, but also the TROIKA that have been really important to actually shaping and keeping the ambition that was set in Dubai. As we're coming together for COP29, we know that we've got to step up our actions to deliver on the priorities that have resulted from last year's historic global stocktake. Let me turn to the national determined contributions under the mitigation track. This was established, of course, by our COP presidency designate under the leadership of South Africa and of Norway. This is going to be an important part of this work, and it will be due COP30 on Brazil's watch. The next generation of NDCs represents an unprecedented opportunity to put the world on track to a 1.5 degrees Celsius future, a future that is in grave danger of slipping out of reach. And let me just remind everyone, when we produced the first NDC in Paris, I can tell you as a Minister of Environment, it was quickly put together. And this is one that is a serious effort and endeavor in which it will demonstrate each country's commitment, but this will help also to build trust. It will help to bring the credibility and the accountability of what goes into the next NDC. It will be built upon many lessons that were learned, but also clear direction that came from the global stocktake. It will send policy signals that are needed to accelerate action towards our net zero across the whole of society. And thanks to the UAE consensus, we do have a clearer guidance to parties on the ambition, on the scope and quality of the NDCs. And that wasn't easy, not in this complex family of ours. The plans have to be aligned with the 1.5 degree limit, and they do have to cover the whole of economy, and that's not easy, all greenhouse gases and in every sector. And they must set out how governments will contribute to the goals agreed at COP28 on global transitions, just transitions, but especially for the energy sector. And this, in the end, will encompass the whole of our commitment to leaving no one behind and delivering on the promise of the SDGs. They do have the power to bridge the gap between the environment and the finance ministers and our IFIs. The upcoming annual meetings and the G20 are going to be important milestones, but opportunities to strengthen these linkages. Today, I'd like to raise two important points. The first on the technical support for NDCs. The TROIKA requested coordinated support from the United Nations for countries developing their NDCs. And the Climate Promise, among others, initiative does just that. The SG had tasked the UN to deliver on the initiative, UNDP in the lead, which brings the system together, its expertise. But why is this so important? This is important because we do have the largest footprint in the world. It's in over 130 countries and works on a daily basis with our governments. And this is another opportunity to deepen the NDCs that become economy-wide, supporting them to create new plans that align with 1.5 and that also double as investment plans spurring on sustainable development. We know an economy-wide 1.5 aligned NDC is a massive undertaking for any government. They will require ministers of finance, international financial institutions, all sectors, but let's not forget the parliaments. This is a whole of government and a whole of society endeavor. So the kind of support that we will need is really to lean into this on every level with all partners in this, but even more so for developing countries, many of whom are on the front line of the climate crisis. They are struggling with high levels of debt and in some cases without the capacity to put these plans forward. And even if they do, the bandwidth in those countries in dealing with crises makes this less of a priority because it is a planning exercise, an important one, but it takes up time. UNDP is aiming to provide this technical assistance in the surge support of the partnerships and expertise that need to come together to make this happen. This work all comes at a cost. All of those that have been involved in this know that. And so at this point, we need our donors and partners to ramp up support urgently to fund the Climate Promise and the NDC partnership. Fueling those vehicles that we have will help us, and we are running out of time. And there is one thing that I've seen in our international community. We're always making the promises, but we're coming there too little, too late, and we expect to deliver on the commitment. It will not happen. We're looking at February to begin the delivery of our NDCs by Brazil. I know that we've got a set number of countries that account for those emissions, but we need to get the support behind them so that there is a credibility in those NDCs. They will be scrutinized. We know that there is a hope that our TROIKA will be the leaders in this, but every 3.0 NDC that comes forward, people will be looking to see how is this going to change economies and the lives of people. We have raised ambition, and we know that in the G20 we must find leadership where there is the greatest capacity, capability and responsibility for doing this. The second item is in terms of working together to provide finance for those who need it for increase their ambition. Many of these are transitions, and in transitions where you have the most to lift, it means we have to front load the support that is needed to get onto that track for transition. The Secretary General has been clear that he will work with all parties, particularly President Lula of Brazil, over the course of the next 13 months as we head to COP29 and on to COP30. Important remarks by Andre where he talks about the value of multilateralism. We proved it in the Pact of the Future. At the last minute, taken to the rope, we did deliver. So we still need this global town hall for where all our voices come together, and we have to overcome those differences because outside of this hall there are 8 billion people with expectations that have long been denied, and they get harder and harder the longer we leave the action to deliver. So I'm urging all of us to create that enabling environment where we can secure our maximum ambition with acceleration and cooperation, and seize the opportunities of the NDCs to bring us back around that table, which will deliver on ambition. The outcome of COP29 on the new collective quantitative goal on climate finance is an important test of the seriousness of the international community to enable the means of implementation for these NDCs. So I'm urging all of us to work together for a strong agreement. We know that the world desperately needs it. There are not many good stories coming out of the world today. We only have to look around us in this region to see that. But I can tell you, it's the same on my continent in Africa. And so we need something that gives people hope again. And what better than the existential threat of climate change being addressed by the global community to say that, yes, we can do it. Actions we take in the next 13 months will be critical. And it's important for us to be bold with our ambition, but to accelerate the action with a sense of urgency. And let me just quote my brother Sultan, there is no going back. We can only go forward. So let's do that together. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary General. Now I will turn to our keynote speakers to frame further our discussion, to provide their insights on how collaborative efforts and partnership could scale up our climate action. So we have a guiding question, but I would like to ask you not to limit yourselves to the question and provide also your own experiences and feedback. So the guiding question is, how can we enhance international cooperation to drive greater ambition in the next NDCs by addressing shared climate challenges, establishing enabling conditions among all stakeholders, and designing synergistic approaches aligned with global climate goals. So the first speaker will be Mr. Volker Hoekstra, the EU Commissioner for Climate Action. Please, Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Minister Babayev, for bringing us together and being such an excellent host. And great to see so many partners and friends who are relentlessly working on this tremendously important topic for our generation, but certainly for generations to come. Would love to say a number of things on how we're trying to approach this as the European Union, but please allow me, Chair, to briefly build on two of the pivotally important things that also have been said by the previous speakers. And wanted to build on what Andre de Lagos said, and him stressing that the geopolitics are so extremely difficult, but can basically not be an excuse. And I wanted to underline that. And if anything, what we established and what we accomplished in Dubai last year under the leadership of Dr. Sultan should be our guiding principle. That was, in essence, to me, a victory of diplomacy, in which was also a dramatically difficult geopolitical context. And future generations simply will not accept the fact that it was difficult and that therefore we didn't succeed. And so I think that is one. Secondly, as Amina just said, we do need to move forward. And let's be very explicit to all who feel tempted to treat what we reached in Dubai as an a la carte menu. That is simply not in the stars. That is not possible. This is not something you can pick from what you like and then leave the rest aside. No, we all have to do each and every element that we agreed on. Having said that, and moving to the NDCs, let me briefly outline how we are trying to approach this as the European Union. Many of you will have heard about our commitment to Fit for 55, so driving down emissions by 55% towards 2030. And of course, the other goalpost is making sure that we're at net zero in 2050. And that brings you to the question, what do you do in the years in between? In particular, what do you do towards 2040? And our approach has been the following. First, we have been very explicit that it all starts with science, with a scientific base for what is needed. And we're doing that within the European Union, but we've also provided extensive funding for climate science, working together with many of you, but of course, first and foremost, with the IPCC, to show what is needed, what the European Union should do in its own geography, but also what we should do as a global community. And in my view, every single time using science as the basis on which we start is tremendously important. And therefore, we have funded a range of projects of modelers and experts who guide us through what is necessary. And each and every time, by the way, they give us the message that if anything, we do need to speed up. So that is one. The second, and that is tremendously important in our societies, where many are worried about what climate change does to our planet, but are also worried about some of the measures we're taking and what they imply for their lives, that we truly carefully look into what our stakeholders think and how we take them along. And then as a third step, we have made sure that this is being fed into a detailed impact assessment in which we carefully calibrate what is necessary for climate, for economic, social, and environmental impacts. And that has led us to basically a huge 3 months call for evidence and asking hundreds of respondents how they see this. NGOs, businesses, individual citizens within the European Union have participated. And the survey actually shows that there is significant appetite to do more. And therefore, as we've already said last year, we aim to go for a 90% target by 2040, making sure that we also meet the prerequisites in terms of competitiveness and in terms of a just transition for our people. And as many of you know, this will then be up to the new Commission. The current European Commission is in its final stages. The new European Commission will hopefully start on December 1st, and what it seeks to do is put this into law, put this into legislation in the first half year of its new term. And of course, we are very much looking forward to not only continue on this ambitious track within the European Union, but work very closely with all of you across the globe to make sure we continue and basically we run faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. It's now my pleasure to invite Her Excellency Madam Grace Fu, Minister for Sustainability and Environment of Singapore. Please, Madam.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by thanking the COP Presidency's TROIKA for giving me this opportunity. I'm deeply honored and humbled to be here to share Singapore's experience, and also thanking the TROIKA for making international cooperation such an important plank of this gathering. It is, for Singapore, a small country, international cooperation is crucial for us to meet our net zero 2050 goal. As an alternative energy disadvantaged country with very limited opportunities to deploy renewable energy at scale, it would not be easy for Singapore to achieve our climate goals on our own. Our ability to fulfill our climate goals, including our net zero goal, is contingent on effective international cooperation as well as the maturity of decarbonization solutions. We're therefore expending much effort on both fronts. We are working with other ASEAN countries to facilitate cross-border electricity trading in the region. We aim to import 6 gigawatts of low-carbon electricity by 2035. That's an increase from 4 gigawatts previously. Our authority has granted conditional approvals, totaling 1 gigawatt from Cambodia, 2 gigawatts from Indonesia, and 1.2 gigawatts from Vietnam. We hope that these efforts will serve as pathfinder for the ASEAN power grid. We have signed MOUs with several countries, including Australia, Chile, New Zealand, and the UK, to cooperate on low-carbon technology solutions, such as low-carbon hydrogen. International cooperation between parties and with non-party stakeholders would be critical to undertake research, set standards, aggregate demand and supply, and build up supply chains to scale up hydrogen production, transportation, and storage solutions. While there are considerable risks associated with implementing such projects, notably the slow maturity of low-carbon solutions, transnational sovereign issues associated with transboundary trade of green electricity, and other regulatory and policy uncertainties, we believe that there are win-win mutual benefits that such projects will bring, notably enhanced national energy resiliency and security. The onus is on us to put forward a positive narrative on the benefits for such projects. We therefore thank countries such as the US, which is helping us do a joint feasibility study on regional energy connectivity within ASEAN, which we hope will put forward a positive case on the benefits of an ASEAN power grid. We look forward to the findings of this study as well as the support of the US and other partners as we work to strengthen the energy grids in the region. I'm also pleased to share that on 21st October 2024, and that's coming, Singapore and the IEA will formally open the IEA Regional Cooperation Center in Singapore. We look forward to working closely with the IEA and other international partners to catalyze new and innovative decarbonization solutions. We believe such partnerships will serve as a key enablers for the net zero transition in Singapore and in Southeast Asia. On the second issue, on enabling commitment and enabling action, we see the need to pursue innovative financing solutions that will enhance international cooperation and collaboration between parties and non-party stakeholders. As a finance hub, Singapore is pioneering innovative and credible green financing solutions to mobilize more stakeholders to support climate efforts in the region and beyond. At COP28, we launched a blended finance platform called Financing Asia's Transition Partnership, or FAST-P for short, that aims to mobilize up to US $5 billion to de-risk and finance transition and marginally bankable green projects in Asia. We will contribute concessional capital towards this platform, which we hope will catalyze contributions from other players, such as multilateral development banks, development finance institutions, and philanthropies. In turn, this aims to crowd in commercial capital to achieve a lower blended cost of capital to support transitional and decarbonization projects that may otherwise not be able to obtain commercial funding. We have also launched the Transitional Credits. Let me say that again. We have launched the Transition Credits Coalition, or TRACTION for short, and 2 pilot projects at COP28 to test the use of high-integrity transition credits in the early retirement of coal-fired power plants. If these projects prove successful, it will serve as pathfinder for other projects that will help the region transit away from coal towards cleaner energy, which will be the key to keeping 1.5 degrees within reach. We also believe that Article 6 on cooperative approaches is an important component of the Paris Agreement that can direct private capital, and international investments towards realizing additional mitigation outcomes and high ambition. We need to complete further guidance on Article 6 at COP29. And that I'm very motivated to co-facilitate Article 6, and I thank the Presidency for giving me this opportunity. I look forward to working with all parties to facilitate the discussion on Article 6. And a learned leader has described Article 6 in this way to me. He said that Article 6 is like a plane that has been circling around and around and around the airport, waiting for its slot to land. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's find the slot for this aircraft to land at COP29. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Minister, for your thoughts, and also thank you for your acceptance of our invitation to be the ministerial pair on Article 6, which I'm sure will be instrumental to get the success at COP29. Now, let's also hear the regional perspectives from Africa, and I would like to invite Dr. Festus Ngeno, Principal Secretary of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry of Kenya. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. The international cooperation and collaboration are essential if we are to combat climate change and address its far-reaching impacts. The Global Stocktake outcome recognizes the importance of international cooperation, including transboundary cooperation, for contributing to the progress towards the goals of the Paris Agreement. And this applies to mitigation as well as adaptation and enhancing resilience to climate risks. Historically, adaptation has been treated as a local to a national concern. However, we know that climate risks can spread through international trade, financial flows, shared natural resources, shared infrastructure, and human mobility. It was the African group of negotiators that recognized adaptation dimensions across scales and requiring very strong regional and international cooperation under the Paris Agreement. Within Africa, the African Union and its regional economic communities have institutional arrangements in place to accelerate coordination and cooperation on managing transboundary climate risks. Most of the regional economic communities have regional climate policies and strategies in place that represent opportunities to leverage regional action to manage transboundary climate risks, while some RECs have established specialized institutions to coordinate transboundary efforts, such as the Great Green Wall Initiative. A roadmap for African resilience addressing transboundary and cascading climate risks was co-produced and released last year, proposing key actions towards realizing the ambition of the African Union Climate Change and Resilience Development Strategy and Action Plan 2022-2032, including the African Nairobi Leaders Declaration on Climate Change and Call to Action at the first inaugural African Climate Summit in Nairobi. African countries are explicitly concerned with transboundary climate risk on their national adaptation plans, and that the transboundary climate risks that are raised relate to shared waterways, forests, and other cross-border ecosystems. Several NAPs mention the need for regional knowledge and data sharing and cooperative adaptation, and one refers to transboundary risks related to supply chains and food security. Most robust analysis of transboundary climate risks, including as part of the UAE framework for global climate resilience, could help strengthen African adaptation planning in future NAPs or revised NDCs. To enhance regional and international cooperations, we also call for adaptation finance under the new collective quantified goal to allow for the financing of the multi-country and regional adaptation projects and enhanced programs. Enhanced cooperation will be instrumental to addressing the shared climate risks we face today and under our future warning scenarios. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ngeno. And of course, when we talk about global climate action and collaboration, we need to also focus on how non-party stakeholders play an important role in this process and how inclusive process could lead to a successful outcome. I would like to invite now Madame Nigar Padarai, a high-level champion for COP29, to share her perspectives on so far, based on her experience, how this process could be run more successfully. Please, Madame.
Thank you so much, dear Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Azerbaijan, welcome to Baku. It's a great honor to address you as the UN Climate Change High-Level Champion. The role which is focused on bridging the efforts of the non-party stakeholders with the work of the governments. So we work with everyone, from CEOs to NGOs, from city representatives to youth leaders, from academia to philanthropies. There are so many stakeholders, and all of them are part of this inclusive process. And as high-level champions, myself and my sister Razan Al-Mubarak, together with Marrakesh Partnership leaders, are here to listen to you, dear parties, and to make sure that we have this inclusive process and we are helping parties to implement the clauses of the Paris Agreement. So when we speak about the NDCs and how non-state actors, communities sees the NDCs, in many cases what we see now from all those meetings that we had throughout all these meetings and the legacy coming from the champions is that in many cases non-state actors are leading the way, and they are showcasing that the ambitious climate plans are possible, are supported by non-state actors, and they are popular in many cases. So from that perspective, we are also, as the Climate Champions team, just recently, they have launched a report, which I want to give you some highlights, what it says. So the report highlighting the insights, solutions, and offers from non-state actors came with the following headlines. Businesses and financiers are poised to invest in and deliver on high-ambition national climate plans if those plans send a strong market signals to catalyze inward investment. Cities, states, and regions will be able to increase ambition and accelerate the implementation of national climate plans if those plans empower subnational governments with the tools and fiscal levers to deliver local climate action. Indigenous peoples and civil society are offering critical insights on how to ensure that climate implementation plans steward a transition that is just and benefits the least advantaged. Enhanced national climate plans can empower all of these actors to go further and faster, and it's critical that inclusive whole of society and multi-level approach is taken in the design of NDCs. Dear colleagues, climate change is not a future risk. It is something that is happening today, and it impacts the lives of billions of people from all over the world. And we are here to come together to make decisions that will support this process, that will help our future generations. And to implement NDCs, finance is critical. To apply private-public partnerships is very important. They will be needed more than ever before to inform ambitious NDCs for their implementation. This presents a significant opportunity for institutional investors, commercial banks, and insurers in the green transition and adaptation economy, climate and SDGs. Adaptation finance needs to be another key focus area and is right for the new kind of collaboration we need between policymakers, multilateral development banks, and DFIs, and private sector. As the Climate Champions team, there are a couple of areas that we specifically focus this year. We work with cities, we work with civil society, we work with private sector, and just to get back to you with what their angles are, for example, when we speak to the large corporations, it's great to see that they consider green transition as a part of their strategies. In many cases, they put sustainability at the heart of their businesses, how they run businesses. So that's why we will be bringing private sector together at COP29. We will be having a business investment and philanthropy forum at platform on 14th of November. And this is where we want to see CEOs coming together with philanthropies, deciding and showcasing their commitment to climate finance, because climate finance cannot be achieved, the goals that we all want to achieve cannot be achieved without private capital. It's not only done with the public capital. We need private sector on board. And this is our strong message to the private sector people. But what we see is that small and medium enterprises, in many cases, are lagging behind. So that is another focus that we want to bring in, because small and medium enterprises, they make, this is the real economy. They make 90% of the jobs on the market, and this is the real economy actors. And they will be trying to adjust to new regulations. How they are doing that? So we had that survey done by the SME Climate Hub that I keep repeating, is that out of 63% of SMEs that they have surveyed said that they have never been asked to make green transition. So this is a big number. And in many cases, when we speak about inclusivity, young people, women, indigenous communities, these are the small and medium enterprises in many cases. So we need to support SMEs. How we are going to do that? We need to, in many cases, they have no access to finance, they have no capacity, and they have no understanding of this green transition. So capacity building for SMEs, showing them the right way to access finance will be something that we will be doing, and we will be also continuing this discussion at COP29. So dear parties, dear ladies and gentlemen, as I said, Marrakesh Partnership leaders, high-level champions are here to get your feedbacks and to make sure that the voices of non-state actors are being heard. And we call for solidarity. We call for whole-of-society approach, because this cannot be solved. The climate change is impacting all of us, and it cannot be solved only by the work of the parties. So we are here to help you and to support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigar Khanum, and also thank you for your hard work and all the contributions that you have made so far. And let's also hear another perspective from the non-party stakeholder side. Madame Firdaus Usidum, the Special Advisor to the Secretary General of United Cities and Local Governments, will speak now. Please, Madame, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. This could be like the dream team as a session, actually, with the opening and everything that we are hearing today. And I would like to begin thanking the three COPs leadership for their involvement and the commitment that they are bringing to the table, and listening to Nigar now. But also to the presidency earlier, it looks like we had everything in hands to achieve what we want. I would like to bring to the table 3 points. The first one is that the IPCC has shown with its last report that in the different scenarios, we have 10 to 15 years if we want to save the planet, not more. So this is something, it's a parameter that shows us that if we don't move today, I mean, we can still make promises, but not actions. So we need really to work on a global community with one governance. We are calling for that, for a whole of governance. It joins what you were saying earlier. We need a whole of governance approach to ensure that we are synchronized, aligned, and generating the right translation for the policymakers, the right translation between the needs of the people, the needs of the territories, and what we are bringing as actions and implementation. This would be the first thing. The second thing is we need a locally efficient impact. Whatever are the finances, whatever are the policies, if we are not having an impact at local level, there is no work, there is no achievement. So from our side, this whole of governance should allow a locally efficient impact into the action. We need this impact to touch the communities, and we need this impact to touch the territories, natural and urban. And this balance between both is the key thing that for us makes the success of the policies and the decision that this whole of community will be doing. The third thing is, we have been hearing talking about trust. Amina Mohammed was talking about that. I think this is somehow, when we hear and we listen to different voices and the local government's voices, there is a loss of trust into humanity's capabilities of taking the right decisions. The cost of not having acted before is becoming too high in terms of human populations and too high in terms of cost of funds, of financing. So we need to keep somewhere and somehow the hope that reversibility is still possible. And for us, from the perspective of the local governments, reversibility is possible if we work on the right perspective of the loss and damage. We are calling for loss and damage to not be only a part of the adaptation agenda, but to become the third pillar of climate action: mitigation, adaptation, and loss and damage, because as you were saying, we are already living it, and our territories are already being impacted by that. And the fourth point is about the fact that the climate emergency is transboundary. We heard it this morning. But it is transboundary also when we are to take the right action. Of course, we need nations to generate the right strategy onto their territories, but we need them to take into account the fact that the local government and the subnational government are the best situated, the best located to know what's happening on the territories. They know their territories, they know their communities. And working together is the only way to gather this multi-level dialogue. So we think that the international cooperation and this whole of governance from the communities, the citizens, the local government, the subnational government, national governments, and global governance will be the only way to have the right answer. Now, I would like to go to the last point, and it is about the social dimension of climate action. And I know that the G20 is organizing the social summit in November. The social dimension of the climate action came out strongly in the COP28, and we were happy to see the COP29 calling it solidarity. We need to go really into a solidarity for cooperation, and not only cooperation for solidarity. It sounds like we are just asking funds. No, solidarity for cooperation. And we need really all the communities to be taken into account as such. For example, executing a framework for recognizing the role of children and youth in the global climate action, engage youth in local communities, to prioritize children. In doing so, we hope to elevate future inequalities. And to close the intervention, I would like to recall the fact that having climate action without taking into consideration the inequalities that are going on into the world will not be achieving climate action. We believe that they must go hand in hand, and climate socially just transition is what the world needs to keep the hope, to keep the trust, and to keep the belief into the decision makers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madame Ousoudoum, and that was the last keynote speaker for our session. Thank you very much, dear distinguished speakers, for your compelling perspectives. You touched upon different angles of collaboration and reflecting the diversity of efforts needed for enhancing international cooperation. Now we'll move to hear from the audience if there are any questions or reflections to be made. For the sake of time, we can have only few minutes to 3 maybe questions or reflections to take on board as we need to move to the plenary room. So we have one gentleman there on the 3rd row, please.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Axel Michaelova. I'm representing the research and independent NGOs here. My question goes to Dr. Festus. You've been talking about adaptation. I would be interested how you would see the international carbon markets and Article 6. Grace Few has mentioned their role, and Kenya, of course, is a front runner. So how could they help to reach your targets? Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't mind, we'll collect the questions and then I will turn to the speakers. If there is any more intervention, question, or reflections, there is a lady behind on the left side, please.
Good morning. I think it's afternoon already. My name is Wanhami Sisingano. I'm speaking on behalf of the Women and Gender Constituency. And my question is to all the presidency, especially as we transition and keep the mission to 1.5 degrees and making sure the next round of NDCs are really inclusive and they leave no one behind. This year was supposed to be the year for renewal of the Gender Working Program and Gender Action Plan, but we have not heard or we are not seeing the strong leadership to get that as a core component of making sure the next round of NDC is strongly guided with a strong gender climate action. So really wanted to hear from you on how you will integrate gender responsive climate action to make sure that nobody's been left behind.
Thank you. And last question from the audience. I've seen one from this side, but now it seems it was withdrawn. Any more reflections, questions, comments? I don't see any, so maybe we can then proceed to have the answers. Please, Mr. Ngeno, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. And true, Kenya is leading in the process of complying with Article 6, 6.2, 6.4 on carbon markets. We have worked on our legal framework, and one of the key things that we provided in the process is the option for bilaterals. As we speak, we have several bilaterals that we are almost concluding with various countries, and we hope even some will be signed at COP29. So that's one of the key things that we are looking at in terms of international cooperation, and of course, building up for climate finance through carbon markets framework. Thank you.
Thank you. And in response to the second question, if Minister Babayev lets me to answer from COP29 perspective, but I would also ask COP30 and COP28 presidencies if they would like to add some things just to proceed with. So from COP29 perspective, on the negotiation track, of course, one of our priorities is to have the gender action plan to be agreed, and that is among our plans. We are working also on several fronts to get it advanced. But at the same time, from our own perspective, as in terms of management, we have within our co-presidency team excellent gender balance to be represented. 3 of the presidency team members are men and 3 are female. And also we are trying to mainstream the gender perspective to all our presidency initiatives that we have so far announced, and we will definitely take this into, under our spotlight to have the gender perspective to be under the spotlight during the implementation of these initiatives as well. So maybe from COP28 and COP30 presidencies, any further comments? So we will have sufficient opportunities during these days maybe to get engaged with the COP presidencies on several occasions and get your also get their feedback and reflections on your question. So dear colleagues, with your permission, I will now proceed to the closing remarks so that we can also move to the plenary part. Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, for your invaluable insights and robust engagement today. Our dialogue has underscored the critical role of international cooperation in advancing climate action and elevating ambition in the forthcoming NDCs. By addressing shared challenges that cross borders and sectors, we have recognized the imperative of uniting our efforts to keep 1.5 goal within reach. We have highlighted the importance of creating enabling conditions that enhance collaboration among stakeholders from different sectors across global community. As we move forward, let's carry the spirit of cooperation and shared purpose into COP29 and beyond. By strengthening international collaboration, we can accelerate the implementation of climate policies that drive sustainable development. Our collective commitment and concerted actions are vital to building global resilience and securing a sustainable future for all. Once again, thank you for your contributions today, and we will continue to work together, turning dialogue into action and ambition into tangible results. Thank you. Colleagues, now we'll proceed to the next room for a plenary session.